Sure.
Howdy, everybody. Another weekly thing. This time we got slides and we're recording. Yeah, we came prepared.
Okay.
We're in the streets though. We're still in the streets.
Yeah.
We haven't regenerated ourselves out the streets, but we got slides. So progress,
Yeah.
progress. Um, but yeah, this is every Friday at 2 p.m. UTC. I think that's 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. for Cali. So shout out to you early birds in California. If you guys, no one's here from California, but yeah, today we're gonna go over some quick updates and we're like workshopping a lot. And then we'll just kind of take it into free format. So if you can go to the next slide where it's like we're workshopping, mostly on like the problem of solving
Yeah.
public funding, and then looking at some opportunities. So if you want to go to the agenda slide, let's just like run through what's going on in these streets. Like the
Cool.
slide. All right, so NDC elections happening. We talked about this last time and the push for diversity. We need like more regions running. And we should also have spaces around refi topics. There's been like spaces Russ has been doing, and he's on like a governance work group call right now. But like we need to push people, just like in an election on CNN, you have the issues people care about. We need to emphasize that if you're a candidate running, we want to see public goods funded, we want to see diversity, we want to see regions out here. And so yeah, like that is a big push. We had a July newsletter. It's almost mid-August, so there's some recaps up there and then some feedback on PotLock and just like some funding opportunities. So if you want to go to the next slide on Gitcoin 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so Gitcoin grants round 18, the biggest quadratics funding platform, the OGs of the OGs. They have their round 18 happening starting from the 15th to the 20th. 29th, 29th, that's what it says right there. So if you want to
Yeah.
click on the picture, apply for Gitcoin grants real quick, just like go to the website. The other one. The
Uh,
You just click on the other
this
picture.
one.
No, same slide. Like click on the apply for Gitcoin grants. Like on the
Okay.
just
Cool.
no, click on the
It's not a hyperlink.
click on the picture. No, click on the picture. No, the other picture,
This one.
other
Okay.
picture.
Cool.
No, other
Oh shit.
no, same slide. There are two pictures. It's not. It's like
Yeah.
yeah,
There's this one with the hyperlink, and there's this one which
yeah,
is apply
it goes to
for
that. All right,
Gitcoin.
bet. All right,
Yeah.
yeah. There's a bunch of few
Yeah.
open accounts. We plan on applying for this. I think actually Giyu actually applied for this for the public goods platform. There's Web3 open source software.
Yeah.
There's community education. If you don't mind scrolling down a little
Yeah.
bit and just going through that.
This one.
Yeah. If you don't mind
Yeah.
scrolling down a little bit.
So apply for this Web3. For the Web3 open source software. It's the one you apply for.
Yeah, I just want to like show.
And these are featured rounds.
Yeah, and this is very important too because
Sure.
Metapool is now going to Ethereum. We're going to go over their voting platform, but they're also funding the round for Latin America. And so they're using their Ethereum stake. So they not only launched a boss widget on Ethereum, they like actually have Ethereum staking. Metapool is the biggest liquid staking provider on NEAR. They have expanded to Ethereum, and then part of this initiative is taking these rewards and actually putting it towards Latin American initiatives. A lot of their team is Latin American. They bolster a lot of the communities there. So if you scroll up there, there's stuff on Zazalu and Network States. The ReFi DAO is also having it. Shout out to the homies over there. We actually tapped in with them in Lisbon. And yeah, token engineering comments and Web3 social by Mass Network. So there's a lot of overlap. And want to use this as an opportunity to reach out to projects coming on board. It's probably Quadratic Friends going in. And Catalyst, do you got any alpha on this on like the vibe for the G18 or type of projects coming in, or last time you were really like tapped in with
Yeah, but I mean, we got a lot of like criticism and shit for that, so niggas haven't really been fucking with it.
all right, what I mean, like what can you kind of want to like describe that? And like I mean we can go into more in the workshop and later on like what is kind of like not and not hasn't worked the best for Gitcoin, and how can we build a platform for that addresses these. But yeah, I wanted to highlight that because a lot of people are like applying, and it's a lot of opportunity to meet other regions in the space. And yeah, the applications are coming around the corner. It's speaking of applications in the corner. Metapool month 3 is happening. We actually just missed the deadlines. I think the first 10 days are you apply. A lot of them are educational initiatives. And then in the next 20 days, you
Yeah.
basically vote and it allocates stuff there. So yeah, we missed this period. But if you want to click here on the picture, then
Yeah.
yeah, I bet linked up pictures. You can see it's mostly educational initiatives. I would love to see more products get formed, and things of that nature. But yeah, this is how it looks like here. So there is just like there's really just educational initiatives around the world. But yeah, that's pretty cool that they're, you know, this is kind of their near native way of supporting public goods, and then they have the Ethereum stuff going on, the Gitcoin grants around. All right, and then let's yeah, so there's stuff in Mexico, Brazil, but let's just continue off of this. Just wanted to highlight that for a second.
Okay.
Community fund. All right, so people at NDC, you want to click on the hyperlink real quick? This actually got gigged out as a yeah, this got gigged out as a for design specs right now. So we got a designer working on this. This is kind of to model a lot of what's going in the UI for the ENS grant system, where basically people upvote and basically people put small grant proposals. So there's stuff going on funded by the House of Merit and approved there in NDC. But this is meant to be kind of a separate community fund experiment for like a grant giving body when the NDC goes live. And so yeah, there I just wanted to kind of make awareness of that, because like I was saying like a few weeks ago, I'm kind of bullish on public goods. They went from like nothing to Metapool to this to the NDC, and then also what we're building. But take some time to look at the specifications and give any feedback. Everything that we build is open towards public feedback in terms of like the NDC in general. Jane's the lead PM behind this, so this is her brainchild. And so yeah, this comes after the community wanted kind of grants funding outside of like additional budgets from the HOM. Speaking of the NDC, elections are happening in less than 1 month. We need refi candidates. There are a bunch of parties forming. Word on the street is the Blunt party from Blunt DAO is they're gonna have a lot of candidates be running there too. So yeah, we need a refi party. There's been a lot of kind of nominations, and there is a template to apply. I've sent that to some of you of just like the instructions. Like normally you don't want to just like do it from the form. You want to make it on a doc, get it complete. You cannot update the document, like update the submission because it's on. Oh man, can you go back? Did I spell something wrong? Nominate instructions. Try nomination instruct. All right. I'm gonna fix that link. I'm gonna fix that. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna fix that link later. I don't know. I've been sending it to people. Dang. I'm gonna make that link work. Don't worry. We'll get off this call. We're gonna make that link work. But there's 27 days left. There's only half the candidates. So there's 15 seats in the House of Merit, 7 in the Council of Fathers, 7 in the Transparency Commission, and there's like more details on what each of them do. House of Merit actually approves the funding once V1 is live. The elections are expected to happen on September 8th for around 2 weeks. The I am human verification was actually down. It just went back up today because of a protocol upgrade. So shout out to the technical work group for fixing that. But yeah, a lot of people are running, a lot of people from Africa, a lot of people from Creatives DAO, like from the Ukraine Guild. There's also Council of Advisors and Transparency Commission. So would love for that to like people to run on there. And yeah, just wanted to put a call to action there. I know some of us are planning to run, so yeah, definitely want to once that's there and we have candidates, want to actually put some like immediate attention on there and kind of have like a debates thing. And this is something we've been discussing with NEAR Week on that front. So yeah, that's pretty let me know if you want to apply, can review it, put it forward and kind of campaign up. Another thing I want to highlight, Funding the Commons Public Good Hackathon. Funding the Commons, pretty lit initiative by Protocol Labs. They're having a hackathon on BiddleBox. It starts, I think, tomorrow. And there's like general stuff for public goods funding. Most of them are for building on the Allo stack. And yeah, if you want to click on the the colorful one on the right. On the click on that one too. Yeah. So the platform is Bittlebox, kind of a project that's spun out of Gitcoin for hackathon submissions. But I know some people here like Open Cannabis is they're working on a kind of like a research platform on here. We're gonna be submitting something on here as well. But yeah, let's just briefly kind of go over the sponsors and the things that are going on there. So I'm gonna scroll not on the Build box. And they also have the Regen Builder House and Funding the Commons in Berlin again. It just happened in Paris. They're having it in Berlin. Yeah, we were expecting to go to the Berlin house. I don't know who from here is going to be in Berlin during Berlin Blockchain Week. There's also APAC. There's also, I think, ETH Accra in Ghana happening at the same time. So some of us will be in each, but we're not necessarily sure who will be in Berlin, but we will be participating in this hackathon. So yeah, let's just scroll and see what's good so we can give the people some background on. Your mouse is so like you're like so eager to click something right now. Yeah, so we got kick going.
Seriously.
We got lit. Yeah, just if you want to like scroll down real quick. A lot of CO2 stuff, basic attention token, review and evaluation tool. That's something we're actually interested in, like and in our platform, like how to measure impact. And
Yeah.
So I kind of want to see what overlap there, and then if we can plug into the Allo stack, and then maybe put it on IPFS, and then maybe remint it on NEAR or something like that. Also, endowment is part of this too. So yeah, you can use NEAR on here, like because they have an OTC address where you can like send NEAR, but it's natively built into Ethereum where they make essentially Ethereum addresses for nonprofits, so you can donate directly there. And they're also an American nonprofit and take advantage of that for kind of tax reasons. But yeah, it's a lot of Allo stack stuff, and even Cello kind of getting people to do Allo stack. Is that Golem? Is that the Golem Foundation? Probably something to do with Octane, but we'll do a deep dive later. Anyone want to join our team? Anyone interested in that? Tap in. But yeah, 80 racks lit. That's more than what's going on here. There's also Web3 Hackfest with 50 racks for like NEAR building happening right now. I ain't mentioned that. I put that on the slides, but that is also something if you're trying to build boss front ends, which is something we're trying to do. Let's like go to the next one. Boss hacks. We got like a small $500 bounty. It's like it got probably like 17 racks for NEAR native stuff, creative DAO, NFT stuff, Mailchain, governance work group. Our bounty is going to be more for kind of the same thing we mentioned earlier for outcome based assessments. So yeah, 2-week virtual hackathon starting in 13 days. So be on the lookout for that. There's also a manual on Gitbook with more kind of ideas on what to build and how that will be facilitated. That's the build out initiative. So hop onto the build out Telegram for that. Let's go back to the slides real quick. That's like all I really wanted to go from there. But there's a lot of mentors. We got a lot of OG mentors, and mentors are actually forming teams. I'm pretty excited about this. If you want to go to Crash Course, this is still being worked on, but essentially like we want to create like a way for us to learn within each other of like what's going on in the refi space. It's fairly new. We don't have all the answers, but we also want to learn and teach, because the best way to learn is to become a teacher. And so this is something that Guy and Trophy are working on that we need extra contributors for, and want to kind of tap into the knowledge base and like really provide a way for new people getting onboarded to kind of learn and accelerate their knowledge in the refi space, and really kind of invoke a culture of like knowledge share. So yeah, they're working on that. It's nearrefi.org/crash-course. Let's on to the next so we can move on to more interactive newsletters live. Shout out to Trophy for that. Give a bunch of updates from what happened in July. Nearrefi.org/subscribe is how you tap into that. If you click on there, you can kind of see like all the updates. We also got some interesting like new podcast drops that happened from Green Pill, like, and the ReFi Summit that happened. They dropped some alpha too. So definitely check that out. That's on the bottom of the announcements, kind of all the resources there, and just like kind of like an overview and help that we need. So yep, definitely check that out. There's Public Goods Network also launched as a L2 OP. So that's pretty interesting stuff too there. So that's kind of one of the big announcements from the refi space in the past month. What's next? Oh, you want to talk about this? So Shao was on the call a little bit ago. Yeah, she works in the VC space, investing in a lot of regenerative projects, was interested in kind of doing a bunch of case studies for public goods funding and funding frameworks in the space. I didn't link that. Is that linked? I like that. Oh,
It's linked.
oh, lit. Yeah, and yeah, we had some conversations. This kind of drove our of how we're looking at a public goods funding platform a little bit different. We were thinking of more of a milestone-based outcome of things where people review specific milestones, but a lot of the stuff for initial public goods funding isn't necessarily big enough to like warrant stakeholders from doing like granular review of milestones. So we're kind of thinking about like, okay, how does VC work and how do they fund? And there's like traditional like pre-seed, series A, seed, series A, series B. So why can't we have like matching pools that reflect different levels of funding? Like a lot of times, like you'll see, especially like in retro PGF and stuff like that, you'll see like Etherscan in the same thing as more like an indie startup. So kind of like how do we evaluate what stage a public goods funding platform is public goods funding a public good is at, and how to fund them at different levels, and kind of like what's different between how VCs evaluate and then how we evaluate from the refi space. And kind of the thing that we came to was like impact. And then it brings part of like a harder question, like how do you measure impact? And then essentially kind of taking this and like what Gitcoin has done and then kind of mixing these factors together. And then we've been just like looking at different case studies, really trying to be student of the game of like understanding how different people fund different initiatives. But yeah, Guy, you had a long conversation with her yesterday. You want to kind of tap in with like what were the things that you guys discussed or
Yeah.
insights?
Sure. So basically what we discussed was we focused on measuring the impacts in the refi space. So there was a pretty heated conversation since it's more easy to measure impact on chain, but when you have a more realistic projects, let's say for example, people who are building out there, not technically, so it's a bit more hard to measure those impacts. So we were thinking of how do we breach Web3 to the real world. So we were thinking of platforms like OFP, the way they have validators. OFP is open source protocol, the way they have validators. They go out there and they collect data from projects they host on their platform. So in that case, we were thinking of adopting maybe some of those approaches on PotLock as a platform. But yeah, we are open to other alternatives. We're thinking of something called attestations. Really, let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so it's a new kind of protocol measure on Ethereum called attestation services, which is a public good that enables anyone to make attestations. So either on or off chain. So it's something we are looking into to tap in with this technology. But on NEAR, it's not really there, but we can adopt it because I think it's a protocol level type of technology, but I think it's a good approach
Can
to
you
measure those impacts.
look up govern? Look up govern. That's what Catalyst put in the chat, and then also hyper certs. But yeah, EES they're making a splash. They were
Yeah,
actually
Hypercert.
they were sponsors.
Hypercert.
Yeah, so this
Yeah, yeah. Hypercert was also a conversation. Yeah.
Wow, I forgot
So
about
we're
it.
looking at this. Yeah, you can talk about hypersets. Yeah,
I'm
I
not
think we
really,
have
I'm
very
not
good
really
people.
that hip. I haven't done a deep dive. I was asking, I
Okay,
was
cool.
I found in the comments, I was trying to get someone like, yo, who here is in hypersearch? And then the founder of
Yeah.
Protocol Labs was like, me. And then he just like a
Yeah.
rundown. I haven't done a deep dive, but this is
Yeah.
Channing sticker. What's the vibe? Like,
So hypersets, I didn't go through this much into hypersets because it's on chain. I really know what's on chain. So the way the conversation was how do we bridge on and off chain type of transactions, and how do we measure those impacts? So pretty the ReFi venture framework was around the traditional VC type of framework. How do we incorporate it into this type of project or platform? So asked pretty heated questions about how VC measures the projects they give funds, how do they track their metrics and all that. So it's a pretty long conversation. I didn't take note, but if you find time, we can discuss more about this. So yeah,
can you pull up on the hypersearch docs real quick? I just wanna see what
yeah,
the
sure.
is. Can you go to like developer guide real quick or like implementation?
Okay, yeah.
Oh, it's Solidity.
Uh,
They have an
yeah,
SDK. Can you go a little bit down?
make hypersets
Okay.
very
So they got
yeah.
it's kind of hard when we're doing stuff on box.
Things
Like we can't really do external dependency. I mean, we can actually we can interface with Solidity contracts. I just got to see how we enforce it on the
yeah,
contract level, especially for using it as a gate. I mean, we may have to build some cross-chain interface where we like actually like pull in the hypercerts on Solidity, and then
yeah,
like we have a minting dashboard based on that on the UI for round managers, and then like it issues a SBT, which actually like we can get on the contract level. So we may have to do
yeah,
something if we're like leveraging this.
yeah.
Yeah. Go pull up the
I
gov.
was also thinking about finding if to it.
No, no, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, I was saying if we can find can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So I was thinking if we can find even oracles for this type of hypersets type of technology, that would be great to maybe to interact with APIs kind of technology, not interfaces, since we need a bridge to this. So yeah, I was just thinking about it.
They also
I
have a
haven't find it.
right there too.
Sorry.
It says API
Yeah,
reference bottom one of the developer guide, but
contracts. Yeah, they're just contracts.
oh dang. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Now we'll figure something out, but we can definitely have like a multi-chain type of dashboard type of vibe, and then can you pull up the
yeah.
gov? It's governed without the E. I
The,
want to peep this. It sounds familiar, but
the governance,
no, no, no,
it's
no, no,
over here.
no. It's a different platform. We gotta hit Google,
Oh, okay.
and
Oh,
then
govern. Oh, okay, okay.
GOVRN.
Govern like this.
Yeah, enables not
Track record without the contribution.
Web
This is
three.
the one.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
second one.
Yeah,
And
the second
basically,
one.
it's an attestation service built on, I believe, Gnosis, and
No, yeah,
it helps you as like a DAO track what your contributors are doing in a more qualitative way, but it backs it up with NFTs that, based on the number of attestations it gets, it raises its attestation score, basically making it more verifiable because more people have said that they saw you do the work. So that's one way that we were looking at looping in the more qualitative aspects of impact with a lot of our projects.
okay, okay. I think I can tap into this because I think attestations are a bit more easy to understand than hypersets, since hypersets are only on chain. So I think we need something to juggle with both on chain and off chain type of impact evaluation. So yeah, I can look into this.
Yeah. Can you go to
On
neardc.org/kudos real quick? This is also something that NDC just put out. It might be relevant, but NEAR neardc.org
dash,
kudos KUDO. Oh, you got it? Okay, wow.
yeah, sure,
Um,
yeah,
yeah, I mean, this is just like how to give kudos, but I was thinking of like ways to like kind of like fork this for outcome-based attestations. But that's
yeah,
I mean, it seems like everything's gonna be qualitative. That's the thing. I feel like there has to be someone looking at like different attestations for impact and then actually like approving people or like ranking people. Like there's certain things that just can't be automated without there having be some bias. And at the same time, there's like an inherent bias of like who is reviewing these attestations to define these impact. So like
yeah,
I'm like trying to
yeah,
figure out like who exactly is the best stakeholders to review this impact. And how and then also like kind of taking in the frame like looking at the perspective of like who who out of the stakeholders in the platform doesn't have much incentive where this evaluation for determining impact would be a good incentive for getting them involved. And um yeah, we can go in that later. I mean, what we're thinking is having the people who are necessarily bigger donor. So in quadratic funding, like I have, like okay, so like generally you have like for example like Metapool, they're funding like the LATAM round, and their whole thing is they just want to see LATAM as a region grow. And in terms of Web3, but like they don't if say they support a specific project in Latin America, they have no incentive to directly support that as a bigger organization because smaller contributions are incentivized more in terms of like how much they're multiplied in the matching round. And so like one of the questions we're trying to is like how do we make it so that bigger and larger institutions, if they give more money, they have kind of more say in terms of the direction of how that public good gets oriented, given that the only reason why they would be kind of supporting a public good is because they're dependent on that. So they're essentially like a stakeholder. They're not an investor, but they're heavily reliant on the public good. So it's like, how do we give bigger organizations giving more money like a a bigger stake, and are they suitable for this kind of reviewing outcome-based attestations and making them eligible for larger rounds, which traditionally like big investors would be like this for like the VC. Like we evaluate like the traction, the team, and give them the next check for the next round. So we're kind of like thinking like, okay, how do we simulate the VC model? How do we kind of incentivize bigger stakeholders? And like how that governance would work. So like these are kind of like what we're thinking, and like what is the outcome-based framework for assessment, and who does this and who judges it. So yeah, these are kind of tough questions, but just wanted to give some context on what we were thinking.
yeah. Sure. On that, we actually in the conversation with Shah we had, I was like, how do VC track companies they invest in? And she was like, they normally use performance metrics and reporting, which is kind of standard, but they also have milestone tracking, which is not not like a standard, but they have this small one called site visits. So it means they have this people, well, where we call validators or trustees in our kind of perspective. So these trustees are validators who go on site and check if let's say a company set milestones. Now they're going to evaluate those milestones if they have been met, and how they're going to unlock new rounds of funding into a quadratic funding type of perspective. So I think site visits was something we were looking into because
Can you pull up the URL? Is this Web 2 or Web 3? Like it's Web 3?
It's a Web 2 type of thing. So it's
Okay, so this is
way
like
VC track companies. Yeah.
this is like due diligence as a service, kind of like in a Web 2
Yeah,
platform.
exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what's
that's the one.
there's also more like there's more frameworks coming out like with AI to kind of like evaluate also founders for
Yeah.
investment or like pre-seed and things like that. There's a lot going on right now in terms of like the venture framework that that is
Sure.
being disrupted currently because of like the new kind of tech trends. So definitely on kind of
Yeah.
to be on the forefront of that. But where is it? You got the link in the doc or to the site?
Not really. I didn't put it there, but
All right, we got that's a
yeah.
kind of table to do
Sorry.
that. That's skip to the build
Awesome.
slide too, like before we go there because this is related. So yeah, Nice
Okay, cool.
Weekend season 4. And y'all, it's basically kind of an accelerator by Build Space. Like I think there's like 2,000 people right now as part of it. Well, okay, so going on to Catalyst's question. So ReFi Venture is like what we're calling it's literally it's the research that we're doing to understand like what is a proper kind of venture framework for essentially like public goods funding and impact. It's like it's really just a research document. We're not a VC or we have not filed anything. We do have to like kind of that's actually a table. I actually gotta get the papers right real quick, but like we're not an impact VC. We don't got funds like that. We're basically ideating with Shah who's in the VC space on how we should evaluate in the context of public goods funding and then maybe a VC moving forward. But yeah, we're in the exploration phase and we're building right in front of you. But speaking of building in public, we're part of Build Space Nights and Weekends Season 4, PotLock, which is the name of the funding platform that we're building on Boss that leverages things like Near Horizon, I Am Human from NDC, essentially supposed to be the near native kind of Gitcoin with a twist, and that twist is essentially levels of public goods funding based on like verifiable impact. And so this is kind of like the blurb that we came up with for Build Space. We still need some feedback on this, but this is essentially like what we're brainstorming. But I wanted to get some some feedback on this real quick. Like what do you think of how we're describing it? Because we try to like abstract the Web3 away from it as much as possible. But Kelly, you got any insight on this? So basically, it's the what and the how, and we're like unlock levels of public funding based on impact. Unique contributions multiplies funding matched. Verifiable impact opens higher pools of capital. So just kind of like an explanation of that. First thing is about QF, quadratic funding, and the second one is levels of matching pools based on like your impact. That's essentially the twist that we're putting on it is kind of increasing these levels based on how much work you've done in the past or the traction of where you're at. But let's kind of go. You want to go to the Miro real quick? I think the Miro is sloppy after like our discussion on there, and you can tap in here. It's like potluck.io/Miro is how we find the link, and even our Figma is potluck.io/Figma. Well, it was kind of going kind of like a little bit like messy user journeys from like the individual contributors, the supporters and the project founders, which are like our main kind of stakeholders, and also the round managers who like facilitate the creation of the rounds. And yeah, we were kind of brainstorming pretty heavy yesterday. Just like answer, yeah. But yeah, I want to take pull up some cards because I know like you've been on top. You guys like pretty much like 40 acres put me on like Give It, and I haven't even really like used the platform like that. You guys are really tapped into like tools to use and what's going on in terms of like the public goods funding space. So I wanted to kind of like uh take this opportunity to maybe like document some pain points and how we can build a platform that addresses those pain points, or at least yeah, with that in mind. So if like Catalyst, you want to spit some facts, what's like what would you like to see in like a public goods platform, or like what as like an or like what do you need?
Yeah, I think for things like public goods funding, I think that the technology needs to center and enable the people that it's going to impact. And I think that is reflected in the oversight, the administration, uh, the control. Like these all need to be done by the community because if it's coming from, say, a centralized source that has their own arbitrary view of what public goods are good and, you know, where I guess the direction and support is centered at, um, yeah, that just won't lead to the vibrant, resilient communities that we need. And you see that time and time again, just the disconnect between people building the platform, the people funding the platform, and the people using the platform. So the goal and the reason why 40 Acres specifically has started to look towards building our own platform is because those three groups don't have to be mutually exclusive. Those three groups could all and should all collaborate, which is why our motto is the only way forward is together. And we really mean that in the refi space. So any like funding platform that's built with the intention of use by organizations like 40 Acre, community-led organizations, just have to like squarely center on the community and empower them with the technology and everything else. And I hope that answers your question.
All right, so in the context of work, cause yeah, I'm trying to tap in with y'all. Like Russ is very a part of what we're building, like in terms of core team here. And yeah, like I so in terms of how we can reflect this in a platform, like how do we make sure that that is reflected in like the product backlog in terms of like the gov, like where yeah, like how do we how should we move, like how should we move like building forward, like type like how do we how does this reflect, because there's like okay, the technical stuff of what we need to build and how we need to do it, and then there's kind of like the governance and the overall like product roadmap, and like and then how do we engage like those communities to tapping in and like getting involved in the process, like what are you thinking on that front?
Yeah, I think that like providing clear and concise, tangible benefit for people, even at the earliest stages, to gather like more stakeholders outside of folks that potentially see this as an investment. Not not an investment for the terms of like their time and energy, but just literally like an opportunity for them to make money. Um, the more people that you could captivate with the technology and its capabilities, I think the less work that you'll have to do on the convincing community members to support part. And that just takes, talking to the right stakeholders, showing up for the community in a genuine fashion. That's like really what would set you all apart, like by miles from some of the current players in the quote unquote public good space. And I think just getting their feedback and input uh, on things, especially like the administration of rounds and how projects are supported on a milestone or outcomes based approach. Um, to be honest, like after listening to a bit about what you all were saying earlier, it just reminds me of like the whole legacy nonprofit industry right now, and how you know, people are using data and analytics to kind of micromanage progress that oftentimes is hardly quantifiable. Um, and that's why I was like, you know, you might want to stress on the more qualitative aspects by using attestation services that are more community driven as opposed to on-chain transactions when people are, you know, actively trying to take the Web3 out of what they're building. So those are just, you know, a few suggestions that I would have is first like tapping in with your community or the community that you at least want to use the product and bring them in while you build and iterate on your version and empower them to kind of be like your QA team, but in a sense.
Wow. Catalyst. Wow. Sha, I just want you to know that the fact that he acknowledged and mentioned that our numbers aren't actually going to tell the truth is I think the most important fact and critical point of Web3 and in this world, if you will, because my whole campaign, that's why I've been like waiting on it, is just acknowledging the fact that we're advocating for public goods and those that are underserved, but those aren't the people that are actually within these communities or that have access to. So I was going to ask how we are lowering this barrier of entry again, like I did previously on our last call last week, to increase social proof.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to go over what Catalyst said real quick and like how we can embed that to a platform before I try to tackle this tough question, which I don't really have more answers to from the previous week, but like from what we found, like from a platform perspective, we're looking at like analytics is like we all we can really see right now in terms of like we're tapping in NEAR Horizon, so they have like kind of documents we can index, and then kind of associated contracts where we can see traction over time. And this is kind of more easier to see than getting kind of active users from like a traditional Web2 platform. So we want to leverage that, but like at the end of the day, like that doesn't capture impact at all, and that it wants to be like the number one metric. And like because different sectors have different measures of impact, I don't think there isn't any good impact, like an automated way for doing this. So like all that we necessarily have is like attestations. And so we're kind of more thinking on like what is the best technology we can use for this attestations, which like we're exploring in front of you. And then like how there is a human element here, and that kind of goes like to the round manager or like the since we're calling it like potlucks, like we're calling that like essentially like the chefs, the people who cook up the rounds or cook up the pots. And so like there is like a very kind of like there are stakeholders that are going to review those qualitative attestations, and then there's also people who kind of create the rounds and do approvals or facilitate on that. And from what you're saying is like those round managers or those or people who are reviewing, like they need to be like you, for example, and like people who are using the platform. And that's kind of one of kind of my takeaways, like how do we kind of create a guild now as we're building for the people that review impact, because I like again like we don't have the answers to that, but I think like yeah, we need more people from the start, like from these communities. So I would love to kind of channel what you're doing and like kind of have you more on the yeah, definitely on like the evaluation side and kind of shaping our product in that respect, because yeah, that's ultimately like what I wanted coming out of this. And yeah, I feel like also like I haven't really tapped in with you that much, then that's something that I really need to do. And then like Russ was also telling me like I've been needed to tap in with 40 acres and what y'all are doing. So I definitely want to bring y'all in, and as we're especially in these early stages. But there's definitely that human element, and we can't automate that. And we definitely need to have the people who are reviewing this not have the same biases that like the people in the traditional public goods space is happening. And that's something I was really seeing in the Quadratic Friends chat, is like kind of along the same lines of these conversations. But there's like a thin line of like building in public to like, damn, like we don't have our shit together yet type vibes. But I would love for you to come into the we don't have our shit together type of phase, and we can like kind of take this offline on like, okay, how we can like really build this so it doesn't have these inherent biases. But yeah, Kelly, if you got any thoughts on that, or
Yeah, the only thing I will say, like, you just gotta maintain the integrity of everything you do, and do nothing without intention, because like oftentimes what I see, like the first sign of like poison in the refi space is folks trying to position themselves adjacent to VC. And I would just implore or behoove y'all like to not fall for that trap. It's ways to like really do what we're looking to do in a truly regenerative and not exploitative fashion, using money as medicine. But other than that, hell yeah, I get you. And yeah, I've been waiting for the link up. So just let me know. And I'm there.
yeah, and like we're not coming up with like like that's the thing though. Like we don't really necessarily have like a revenue outside of like possibly like taking like a percentage of matching pools and giving it to the round managers for facilitating and for future development of platform. Like that's we don't really have a way to incentivize stakeholders or who would be traditional like investors, like in any way or any model for that. So there is kind of no VC, but we're definitely taking that to an example of like more on the sense of like how to get dropped off, but like how to like have like levels of funding is and kind of reward having positive impact. Like that's kind of what we're, because like right now if I'm on Gitcoin like and I wanted to go another round, it's the same round everybody else is at, even if I made kind of more impact. But like I don't, yeah, we don't have, we're not trying to be a fund. That's not in the, we're trying to build a platform, and we're building it on Boss and like a few motivations. Like first, like we don't have QF contracts on NEAR, and like we're trying to push that out so that other people can leverage that as like a byproduct of what we're doing immediately. We're trying to have the front end on Boss so anyone could fork it and then fork our contracts and kind of build our own platform very easily, and then tap into like existing tools on there that people are building so that we can so that like we don't have to, we can essentially put out a forkable product from the rip. So that's essentially our intention, is to like put out like something very forkable where we're not waiting on like the allo stack to like come out and like to like that's yeah, that's one of the intentions of that. But yeah, I'm not trying to, I don't fuck with VCs. Like I'm not like like I don't I'm not trying to be a VC at all, but I am trying to channel funding into the platform for sure. But yeah, no, I get what you're saying. But yeah, Mariah, if you wanna kind of like cut your question off, can you like ask again?
You're so funny. No, I mean, you guys are kind of covering it. I think Catalyst, I think I agree in the fact that the most effective way to avoid these perpetual inequities is to get more of the population we're claiming to serve involved. But where I and Shot and a few others, Guy, we keep hitting this roadblock in terms of lowering the barrier of entry so that the impact and the potential is even understood, if that makes sense. Because otherwise, there's a bottleneck and you'll just continually have a concentrated population of people managing and delegating and stewarding this work. Do you have any solutions for that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what entry point, like into what, in terms of like the platform that we're building, in terms of the NDC in general, in terms of NEAR in general, in terms of like Web3, like
Yeah, I was talking to Catalyst, but was directing the question to Catalyst.
Okay. Well, I didn't know because I was like, this is their call. But you know, I definitely, from what I took from what Shaw was saying earlier, um, that was like a little worrying, the part about those who fund get a bigger say in the administration. And how I believe that we should address this is just by, for one, making sure that the people that are doing the work are empowered, not only like we need more support than Twitter Spaces, you know,
Right.
or just like a thread during
So are you
a month of
saying,
awareness.
okay, so you're saying like empowered as in, so for instance, the House of Merit were able to put together almost new roles, salaries, if you will. You're saying like it needs to be you're talking about economic power. That's what you're saying, literally, in the literal sense, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. So I just wanted to be frank because it is recorded and this matters. But so you're saying that you're saying that it's this public good and free work is an empowerment. Okay, so maybe, and then you're saying that doesn't incentivize leaders to want to even participate or
Yeah.
into the space. Okay.
And that's exactly what we saw during some of the Gitcoin rounds. Just like certain projects feeling like they were on an island in a sense, and that leading them to question if it was even worth it to participate in future rounds. I know one round for one grant, for example, didn't even want their payments sent to them because of how disappointed they were in the levels of support that they had expected versus what they had gotten. So, you know, I just think that especially for products and projects of this type, it needs to be squarely focused on those that are using it. And those are the people that need to be in more of these calls, determining like how the platform is going to look. You know, I'm not like a technical builder or anything like that, but I would just assume that that would be like what's important to people building things from scratch is like having the input from those that they expect to use what they're building. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. My whole thing in terms of the challenge is like, in order to like get bread for people to like facilitate rounds to promote to like, I don't necessarily know how to do that, and what would be like it's like in terms of like getting like this like, you know, like economic kind of incentives, like I don't really know how to build that right now, unless like, and that's why like there's like this slippery slope, like how do we get larger stakeholders to want to pour capital so we can like do what we want to do. That's kind of
Well, larger stakeholders, they need to see the return. So if there is no organization, then there's no way to measure that return of their investment. I would say that the focus should be more so how do we get a general consensus of stakeholders, period, if you will, and that being the community that we're serving to do what Catalyst is in, like emphasizing that we incentivize for them.
Well, I'm trying to figure out like where these incentives, because I don't got the bag for this right now. I need to go get a bag, and I need to convince people with bags to like essentially fund public goods. And then that's like when like this that's where the slippery slope comes in, where it's like, all right, then we're very looking like the traditional venture model where we have to essentially see where their incentives lie and how, like, so that's kind of where I'm like a little bit wary of, like, I don't know how to bootstrap something and then eventually
You're
like
not a business developer. That's what you're saying. Okay.
what.
It's business development. That's where you're saying you can't be a technical, you can't be CTO and BD. I got you.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't, like, even if I was doing BD, I don't even know how to develop a framework where, because like that's the slippery slope Cal was talking about in terms of like showcasing return on investments. And it's like, where is the return on investment for a public good platform right now? Like where is that, like how do you do that? That's like what I'm saying. Like, I don't know how, and that's where I was cheering on the slippery slope of like the people evaluating impact. We might have them be the larger stakeholders, and that's where Catalyst is like, whoa, like I'm not sure that should be the way. So I'm like, where do these larger stakeholders, or like the ones that would be providing these incentives, come into like kind of a relatively decentralized platform, and how do we incentivize them to seed the incentives so we can do our work? Like that's, I don't know the answer to that.
You have okay, I have two questions. What types of like higher level supporters have you been in contact with? Like, I know you said that you were talking with somebody from DC, and I've heard like different protocols or platforms names. So like definitely on the technical side, but on the impact and more public good side, who have you been working with?
So the person who's from BC, she's like one of y'all. She came to the call. She was the one in the call like 2 calls ago. Like that's like, she just happens to be like, I wasn't like, oh, we're talking to BC. It's like, okay, awesome. Like she's like, I heard you guys were looking for BC insight, and she's just been helping out. Like we haven't yeah, that's what I'm saying. We haven't even done, like, we're not yeah, we're just building, trying to bootstrap this. We haven't we're not talking to like pension funds, we're not talking to VCs or capital allocators. We started like conversations with like existing people in the space of like, in terms of like implementing NEAR, and like if we give them a quadratic funding contract. But in terms of like funding, like for this, like no, like it's like zip. Like, to be honest, like that's what I'm saying. Like this is the ground level. Like this is like who's here, like type, and like Russ, like that's like that, that's what I'm saying. Like
That's what I was saying. He can't be CTO and BD and all. So that's why. Okay. So I'm understanding. So we almost need, and then Catalyst is just reminding us that people need to be paid for their time and incentivized, which is like, goes without saying. Do we have, so is there anything, is there, are you also implementing a revenue model for the project, if that makes sense? Shot.
that's what I want to do a deep dive into. Like, how do we like the only thing that we have right now in terms of like funding coming in through the platform is funding rounds, and the revenue model be taking a cut of the funding rounds to facilitate the development of the platform and to pay out round managers. Like that's all I can think of at this moment. Kind of like how you people, and like you take a fee of that as like a DeFi protocol. That's what I'm thinking similarly. But I don't like, I would love insight on that. I'd love for you to come in and yeah.
Got it. Okay, I gotta think too, because I don't want to just shoot some things, but I guess I would start that I've definitely been talking to you for like what 6 months now about, but I guess you'll say keep calm, I say unlock, but some sort of membership platform. Starting there, that's where I would say start, so that we also stay legally compliant and that there's no security talk because it's a membership. And then I guess I would ask you, what do we have the capacity to build, if that makes sense? Because there's tons of ways to monetize groups of people, if you will, and then incentivize them with rewards. But if you're building everything, you understand, like another revenue model is also probably another technical product.
Okay. Trying to process.
You are so funny.
Nah, I'm trying to process what you're saying. Like, I just be thinking, like, so I'm trying to tap into what Catalyst was saying, what you're saying with like more like a membership model, like who, like, how do we sell memberships without that being like a barrier to entry? Like that's like, how does like, and then if we're selling memberships and that's our revenue, then how do memberships like how do they relate in terms of like who we're incentivizing and what we're taking from the like membership revenue in terms of like incentives? I'm like kind of a little bit confused on like which stakeholder is which and like how.
Yeah, we'd have to sort all that out. Like that we'd have to literally plan the different tiers and organize that sort of thing, and lowering the barrier of entry would just making sure that it's not overpriced. Um, and we could do tons of market research with that. But I guess, like I said, if that's where we go and that's the focus, it really means that I guess that's the build or the base of a treasury, or the allocation or pools or vaults of funding for whatever different incentives, if you will. So like that would mean Proof of Vibes might have a membership piece or component now, and now they have a pool of funding, generation of capital, and this membership within our ecosystem that now incentivizes their community as well as the leaders because they have funding to pay themselves to lead.
Yeah. That's also a conversation we're having this week. How do we generate revenue for Proof of Vibes? And like generating revenue is yeah, that's there are a lot of ways to do it. But yeah, I gotta look more kind of deep into that. Like what is kind of like what is like the most kind of immediate path to generating revenue in like a holistic way that would, and to provide these incentives to really get the people involved in the development of the platform. It's a lot of chicken and the egg stuff going on here where it's like,
Do you know the business model for Open Forest Protocol? Like, do you know how are they able to generate a profit for planting things? Do you know how that works?
they retire carbon credits and they're like, so like and they raised, I think they raised like 10 mil last couple Qs ago. And
So
yeah,
it's not an actual protocol that's
it's how it works is they like individually onboard like NGOs and stuff to like measure trees, and their whole platform is like taking a picture of the seed, measuring the radius of the tree, then they basically track the growth of the trees and they translate that into carbon credits, and they're, yeah, so it's like,
Okay, that's awesome. I would say NEAR ReFi should probably start with some sort of partnership with them, if you will. Like there's a revenue model, and there's an offer, and there's some capital, and I can help if you need me to follow up. But I also have to finish the other stuff that I gotta finish for you.
Yeah. Yeah, let me let me hit up the fact we should also maybe even that's another kind of point. It's like, can we turn these qualitative impacts and the impacts that we're doing and the work that's being put on to facilitate public goods into maybe something like a carbon credit that can be retired and put into the markets?
Exactly. I mean, so you're stepping on my toes now in terms of like policy and legislation, but that's essentially what it sounds like. It sounds like we'd be creating something new. We'd have to put together the proof of concept, some case studies, get these documents in order, if you will, like MOUs, LOIs, that sort of thing. And then we'd be able to support it, and that would be a new taxation, if you will, for public goods that we can offer as an iteration. And I'm pretty sure NEAR and NEAR Foundation and the ecosystem would love that. I can easily see some exponential partnerships with the Coinbase or whomever else that is also in the public good space, and advocating for the policy of these things. So I think that's the right track.
That doesn't exist right now though, for like
For public goods, no.
I just checking in. Okay. Yeah, I'll reach out to OFP. What would the exact partnership look like? Hold on, let me put this in the notes.
I think it should start first shot because, like I said, you don't need to, yeah, like there's so much to do. I think it should just start with it being just basically presenting our communities to each other, figuring out if there is any, like, because I think you guys are doing all these SBT different community tokens, if you will, right? Maybe making a new one that includes the advantages of this partnership, which means that we're just sharing the offerings in our community and the exposure, brand awareness, cross collaborations, cross promotions, that sort of thing, for Open Forest. Just starting basic, if you will. Nothing, we don't necessarily need to break into like profit incentives because we may not be making a profit with them yet.
Okay, yeah, I can tap in. We've done some stuff with there actually people in there in the chat actually. Like
Mhm.
about chat. Well, and like there are actually like some people there were like part of kind of kicking this off. But you know, I'm a definitely kind of do. I actually asked them for an update here on like what they want to share with the community a few minutes ago, but I will retap in with like but yeah, like in the SBT thing too, I don't really like sending all these documents and stuff like that, like, oh, do this manual. So like we had some like hiccups in terms of, like, I am human and broke with the protocol change. Like that was the thing that just came up today. But we're gonna make it more self-serve where you could just come on and like make your own type vibes. So hopefully we can get that out so that we can have it more permissionless. But I will inform you when that is up too, because I gotta spec that out. But
No problem. No problem. No problem. No rush. Just let me know what you need with Open Forest or how you want to position that. I've been serving as a partnership lead for Developer DAO for quite some time, so I think I could support you.
yeah, we need a def the most immediate route of funding right now, outside of like these small kind of like rounds and stuff like that I see is like kind of like the NDC thing. So kind of that's like would definitely appreciate if we had I know you're in that process, but
Got you. I'm about to get off the call now. You
y-
so I can get to work.
yeah, same. And also we in the mountains off hotspots right now. I mean, you kind of down bad, so it's like, yeah, I'm gonna save the rest of my data so I can put in some work. So thank y'all for tapping in. And yeah, talk to you later. I'm gonna follow up with you in the DMs, Catalyst. All right, peace.